Get ready, the truth is coming. God's law is above all laws, including the law of man. So did you write this?
Yeah, that was me.
Michelle was innocent, but when police questioned her, she did not fight the accusation the way we would expect an innocent person to fight. In fact, some of her answers seemed to make her look even more guilty. So why did an innocent woman appear to cooperate with the story being built against her? And how did someone else's version of Michelle become more powerful than her own? And even some of the people who knew her believed that she might be guilty.
Our relatives think she did it. Our friends think she did it.
As I watched A Toxic Love Story, I kept returning to one question. Why would an innocent woman behave in ways that seemed to make it easier for other people to believe that she was guilty? At first, I thought I might explain this through a trauma lens, but anyone could be frightened, confused, or overwhelmed while being questioned by the police. Then Michelle said something that changed how I understood her entire story.
Ian starts asking me to change things about myself. He starts asking me to dress in certain ways. I didn't have a very well-developed sense of self yet.
So Michelle says that she had a very little sense of self, and it was because of that she agreed to things Ian wanted her to do, even though it made her uncomfortable. A sense of self is the inner knowing and understanding that says, this is who I am, this is what I believe, this is what I want, and this does not feel right to me, and this is where I draw the line. When someone has an underdeveloped or an uncertain sense of self, it does not mean that they have no personality or no thoughts of their own. It means they may struggle to trust those thoughts when someone else is more confident, forceful, persuasive, or powerful. They may have a voice but struggle to trust it and use it, and that can make someone deeply vulnerable in a relationship with a person who is willing to use power against them. And this goes beyond Michelle's story, because an underdeveloped sense of self does not only affect how you feel about yourself, it can affect what you agree to, how you respond to authority, and whether you can protect your own reality when another person speaks with greater certainty.
He tells me, hey, I have this fantasy that I want to watch you have sex with another man. My heart immediately dropped. I hadn't dated a lot before this, so I thought, maybe this is just what women had to do in relationships. Like maybe this was normal.
Michelle said she agreed to have sex with another man because Ian asked her to. She had little experience with dating, so instead of trusting her discomfort, she told herself that perhaps this was normal, that maybe this is simply what people did in relationships. When someone has an underdeveloped sense of self, they may look to the other person to define what is acceptable, even when something inside of them feels so deeply uncomfortable.
She took a knife into that bathroom right there and told me that she had a moment where she wanted to kill herself. A week before she left, she was very emotional. She told me in a crying fit of rage, with her eyes wide open but tears straining down her face, freaking, that she wished she could burn this whole town with me, you, and the dog in it.
This documentary does not give us every detail of Michelle and Ian's relationship, but you can see here how confidently Ian speaks about her. He creates a very specific picture of who she is. The reason that this stands out is because control does not always begin with someone physically forcing another person to comply. Sometimes it begins with one person's wants, opinions, and version of reality consistently carries more weight than the other person's. One person becomes the authority and the other person becomes increasingly unsure, creating so much self-doubt. Over time, the person with less power may begin to organize their decisions around avoiding conflict, keeping peace, or satisfying the more dominant person. They may stop asking themselves, what do I want? And begin asking, what will keep this person from becoming angry? What will make this situation easier? What do I need to agree to so this will be over? This does not mean that Michelle was responsible in any way for what Ian did later. To her, it just helps us understand why she may have already struggled to protect and advocate for herself long before police entered the story.
I don't even really understand where a lot of it came from or why I wrote it. I listened to a lot of sermons growing up, and so it almost was like some weird brain dump from childhood.
When Michelle was questioned, she was not only facing a criminal accusation, she was surrounded by people with authority telling her that they knew what happened. They had emails, they had allegations. They believed that they had a victim, meaning Ian and Angela, and who were the victims, and they already appeared to have a story that explained who Michelle was. Anyone could become overwhelmed in that situation. But Michelle's own description of having little sense of self adds another important layer to Michelle being questioned. A person who already struggles to trust their voice may become even more uncertain when someone in authority speaks with absolute confidence.
Who is Lilith?
It's almost like the alternate persona of like a devil character, like the female side
Female side of who?
of, I guess like a Satan or a devil character.
Michelle is answering the questions honestly, but she does not appear to recognize that she also needs to challenge the conclusion the police are drawing from her answers. She is doing what she knows how to do: comply with authority and answer what she is being asked. But because the police already believe that she is guilty, her answers are interpreted through that belief that they already have about her.
As I'm driving, I feel myself slipping away, like my brain just detaching. I ended up having an almost out-of-body experience for like 24 hours. And then when I come back out of the fog, I am in the middle of nowhere. I have no idea where I am.
Michelle is describing experiencing a dissociative fugue state. A dissociative fugue experience can involve a disruption in memory, identity, and a person's connection to what is happening. It shows how psychologically overwhelmed Michelle became. However, we cannot know whether she was experiencing dissociation during the police questioning itself. What we can see is that she struggled to give the kind of forceful, organized defense that people often expect from someone who is innocent. And this is where viewers can easily become confused. We expect innocence to look certain. We expect innocent people to fight. We expect them to insist loudly and clearly, "You have the wrong person." But a person's inability to effectively advocate for themselves does not tell whether they are guilty. It may tell us that they do not know how to hold on to their own voice when everyone around them is more powerful.
You guys have been here a whole boat.
Regarding the same girl?
Regarding the same bitch. This ex-girlfriend of mine has it out for this woman because she fucking hates her and hates the fact that I'm not with her anymore. She needs to be in pus and in a padded room.
Ian and Angela did not merely accuse Michelle of sending emails or committing certain acts. Together they created a complete identity for her. Michelle became the unstable and dangerous ex. Angela became the frightened, helpless victim, and Ian became the calm, knowledgeable protector, helping police understand what was happening. Once those roles were established, every new piece of information could be interpreted through them. If Angela appeared afraid, it supported the belief that Michelle was dangerous. If Ian appeared calm and knowledgeable, it supported the belief that he was credible. If Michelle appeared confused, detached, or unable to explain herself, it supported the belief that she was deceptive. This is the power of controlling the narrative. When someone successfully defines who you are before you have the ability to speak for yourself, other people may begin interpreting everything that you do through the identity that has already been created for you. Your confusion becomes guilt, your silence becomes manipulation, and your inability to defend yourself becomes further proof of the story being told about you. And a person who already struggles with an underdeveloped sense of self may have an especially difficult time pushing back against that kind of narrative.
All he said was, I tried to move and he grabbed me. He had me pinned back by the hair of the neck. and stuff like that. And he told me that now you're going to get it, you're finally going to get raped.
Here's what's going to happen, okay? I have a warrant in my car, and I'm going to go out there and grab her.
As I watched Angela, I was struck by the extent to which she presented herself as someone who needed protection, concern, and sympathy. We don't have enough information to know exactly what drove her behavior, but we can observe the impact of the way that she presented herself had on the people around her. When people feel sorry for someone, they often become emotionally invested in protecting them. They may become less questioning. They may interpret uncertainty in that person's favor, and the person receiving that sympathy gains influence over how everyone around them responds. That is a different kind of power. It is not the power of appearing dominant or intimidating. It is the power of appearing helpless enough that other people step in, take your side, and act on your behalf. Angela's presentation helped support a story in which she was the victim and Michelle was the threat. And because Michelle struggled to strongly assert her own reality, that story became even more powerful.
So what's going on?
My name's Ian. I'm a U.S. Marshal. Sorry. This is Angela.
I was also struck by the way Ian aligned himself with the police. He made it clear that he worked within law enforcement. On its own, mentioning a shared professional background does not prove manipulation. Many people attempt to establish common ground when they feel powerless or afraid. But within the larger pattern of this story, the effect was significant. Ian was not positioned as an outsider asking police to believe him. He presented himself as someone who understood their world, someone who spoke their language, someone who belonged on an equal professional footing. That gave him credibility and influence. Michelle entered the situation as the accused person struggling to explain herself. Ian entered as the calm professional helping authorities understand the alleged threat. He had already helped define the roles before Michelle had any meaningful opportunity to defend herself. And this one moment stood out to me more than any other moment in this documentary.
And she's just chilling at her apartment right now, just pulling all the strings, manipulating everybody.
Ian describes Michelle as sitting in her apartment, pulling the strings and manipulating everyone. By the end of the documentary, we understand that this description closely resembled what Ian himself was doing. He was the one sitting at home helping create the story. He was influencing how police viewed Michelle. Ian manipulated a situation that made Angela appear to be the victim and pulled the strings so that Michelle appeared to be the perpetrator. This is the power of projection. Projection is when someone sees their own feelings, motives, or behavior in another person without recognizing that those things actually belong to them. He described Michelle as manipulative, controlling, and secretly directing everything. And those were the very same behaviors that eventually were revealed in him. Projection can be extraordinarily convincing because the accusation may contain vivid detail. The person is able to describe the behavior so clearly because, on some level, they are very familiar with it.
It looks like she could get a life sentence for all of this. Our relatives think she did it. Our friends think she did it.
Another disturbing moment came when Michelle's father said that members of the family and family friends believed she might be guilty. That made me wonder how Michelle had been seen throughout her life. Had she often felt misunderstood? Had other people doubted her before? Did she grow up feeling that her voice carried less weight than the voices around her? The documentary does not give us enough history to answer those questions, so I would not assume that her family's response explains her underdeveloped sense of self. However, when even the people closest to you doubt you, it can make you feel completely alone in your truth. Over time, you may begin questioning yourself and stop believing that speaking up will make a difference. And when speaking up repeatedly fails to change what people believe, you may begin to feel that your voice cannot protect you. Fortunately, her father did believe her. We don't know exactly why. Perhaps he knew her character. Perhaps something in the story did not fit what he knew about his daughter. But his belief gave her at least one person who continued to see her as more than the identity that Ian and Angela had created for her.
They told me I'm free to go and the charges have been completely dropped. I'm walking down the courthouse steps and the media is waiting for me outside. It's this big moment for me because they all want to hear what I have to say.
When the truth finally emerged, Michelle said she was shocked that she was believed and that people wanted to hear what she had to say, which is a very different experience for her. She described being listened to as a very different experience. She also described feeling vindicated when Ian went to prison. Her reaction struck me because an innocent person might logically expect the truth to eventually clear them. But when someone has had that much power over your life and your identity, it may become difficult to imagine a world in which their version of you will ever lose its power. Michelle had watched Ian's story become more credible than her own reality. Police believed him. People who knew her questioned her. She went to jail. The truth had not protected her. So when she was finally believed, she did not simply feel relieved. She appeared stunned that her voice and reality had finally carried enough weight to overcome Ian's voice. That is what prolonged powerlessness can do. It can make justice feel unimaginable. It can make being seen clearly feel unfamiliar. And it can leave a person shocked when the world finally acknowledges what they have known all along. A toxic love story is an extreme case, but most people who struggle with an underdeveloped sense of self will never experience anything remotely like what happened to Michelle, but the underlying vulnerability is important. When you struggle to know and trust yourself, you may become more vulnerable to people who speak with greater certainty. You may agree to things you do not want to do, you may question your own memory or perception, and you may struggle to defend yourself when another person defines who you are. And if that person is persuasive enough, their story about you can begin to carry much more power than your own voice. This is why developing a stronger sense of self is not simply about becoming more confident. It means learning to recognize, this is what I experience. This is what I believe. This is what I will and will not agree to. You do not need to experience anything as extreme as Michelle's story to recognize the danger of losing your voice inside of a relationship. It may begin with agreeing when you want to say no, telling yourself that something uncomfortable must be normal, like we saw Michelle did, or questioning your own experience because the other person sounds more certain. Those moments are important to pay attention to. Finding your voice is not only about learning to speak more forcefully, it is about developing enough trust in yourself that another person does not get to decide what is acceptable, what happened, and who you are. I do hope that you find this helpful. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon.